I feel like sometimes creativity sounds like this like super elusive, magical thing that some people have, some people don't. Like literally everything I'm saying is like things I've experienced from clients.
If you're new to this, how do you know when you're falling into that ditch? Is there a way to know that ahead of time? Like that if someone is good at that?
I'll get to that.
Okay,
That's a very, very good question. I'm Josh.
And I'm Laura.
And this is the Devising Good podcast, where we talk about how to create understanding and provoke action using video. I'm going to talk about some of the things you should look for when you're looking for somebody to make you a video. So video producer, video production company,
got it.
whatever. Me! No, that's like part of it, but also I don't make every kind of video. So I think this could be helpful no matter who you're going with, no matter what it's for. These are things you can in general look out for. And to be honest, some mindsets I just kind of wish clients had, because like I've been all over the spectrum with video production, right? Sure. I've worked in animation, I've worked in live action, I've been just the like project management, account manager, like sort of position. I've been the creative director, I've been the one making the videos, like all the things. And before somebody would even like try to hire a video producer or even know what to look for, I feel like part of the thing is they have to like realize like they are the client. So in whatever you're trying to do, the video production company, the video producer is there to help them accomplish the goal. So like my job is to help you accomplish your goal if you're trying to make a video.
Right.
And so like I just think sometimes the reason why that's important is because there are a few traps. I think one, I'm just writing this down because I just thought of this other one. Kind of the first one is like, I'm not the creative one, right? I feel like sometimes creativity sounds like this like super elusive, magical thing that some people have, some people don't. Like, it's the it factor that, you know, and it's like everybody's creative. Everybody. If you find ways of organizing information in an Excel spreadsheet, that is a form of creativity. It may not look as aesthetically pleasing as, you know, something like a graphic designer would make for a keynote presentation.
Depending on who you ask.
But like, it is important, and there, to be able to think, how do I form order out of chaos? How do I make something beautiful? How do I make something understandable? Like, those are all forms of creativity.
Sure.
So, one, don't fall into the trap of, I'm not the creative one. Like, you are creative. So, like, let's take this mysteriousness out of it. There's just some people who they are experts in what they do, because they try really, really hard to make sure that they understand line weights and frame rates and you know, all these different things, story. Like, it's very, and that's why you're hiring them, right?
What is line weight? No, that's so not the point. But.
Right, like it's like in illustration or whatever, or a graphic design, how thick the line is. Yeah. Yes. So I saw something with animation today, and I was also drawing a bunch today, so that's on my mind. Good question though. The other, so here's another ditch. Okay, I get it. Some people's jobs can be a little mundane. So when they go to get a video done, it's the fun thing they get to do. It's the like, sweet, I get to work on this like creative project and it's super fun. And the ditch with that is like you are trying to come up with all these ideas for the person that you hired to make the video. You are like, all of us love to exercise the creative part of our brain, right?
Okay.
But I think sometimes it becomes unhelpful when you work with a video producer, because some people are like, well, what if we did this? And what if we did this? And you can almost word vomit and brain dump on the video producer, and then they're left confused, going like, wait, what that's not in the project scope. Like, we talked about this. And then you start freaking out the video producer when maybe you're just excited about some ideas and whatever. So I think, realizing that, yes, while this project may be like the fun part of your job for the year or this season or quarter or whatever, like, it's important to make sure you kind of brainstorm and all those things at appropriate spots.
Okay.
Like, towards the end of a project is not the time to like come up with a different style or vibe for the video,
Sure.
What if we went this, because it's happened.
Okay.
And that's like, literally everything I'm saying is like things I've experienced from clients. And so I think what's important is, like, when you go, like, as you go through the process with whoever you're working with, brain dump on a note or with pen and paper, or like record yourself if that's the way, if you need to verbally process something, like, do that. But like, I just think it's important to not, like, when you're just spitballing, to not make the video producer think that is now the new direction you want them to go.
Okay.
Does that make any sense?
It does make sense. I guess I'm wondering how, if you're new to this, how do you know when you're falling into that ditch? Does that make sense? So how do I know when I'm like, what's the problem with just leaving it in the video producer's court? You said, like, don't think of yourself as not being creative.
So that's a good question. So when I say that, I want to encourage people to, like, you actually have something valuable to provide to the process. So when I say everyone's creative, it's like you have value to bring to the process. I did a...
So that's like a mindset thing.
It's a mindset.
More than what content you're sharing.
Right. And just don't get, like, down on yourself for, like, well, I'm not the creative one. Like, you don't need to say that. Like, that should never be a phrase you use in any meeting or in any email with a video producer. Like,
so you don't need to feel
it.
inadequate.
You don't. And like, I posted on LinkedIn and tagged several of my friends who are in the video production world. I was like, what do you want clients to know? And a lot of them are like, we want this to be collaborative. We want to bring you along. We want to hear from you, like, those sorts of things. So it's like, and I'll get to this more, but like, so your input is valuable. The second ditch, I almost feel like, is more of a, okay, so have you ever had this where, like, somebody asks you for feedback and you feel like you have to say something because you were asked about it or you want to feel important or whatever?
Okay.
I feel like sometimes when you get too excited about the creative stuff, you like start giving feedback on things that like you actually love the direction it's going. You just feel like you have to say something. Does that make any sense?
I think so.
Okay. So like, yeah, it's just.
So kind of, it seems like it's like you need to be mindful of what you're communicating as the client. Like,
yes,
like
right.
You've set a direction initially, probably. You've had like the brain dump session. giving the producer like the content they need for what you're needing.
Right.
So then it's almost their job to like gut check, keep it on track, like make sure it fits.
Yep.
But not necessarily like each time there's another check-in.
You
be
don't
like
need a brand new idea
derailing
every time.
the direction.
Yes.
Unless there's a legit problem.
And then just be prepared to like potentially bear the weight of the timeline and budget conversation that will be coming if you have a good video producer. Like they will let you know like, okay, we can totally change the direction. Just know that there is like a monetary and a like actual timeline cost to that.
Right.
Everything's doable if you have the amount of time and money to like put towards something. So yeah, it's just like, yeah, be careful about what you're communicating, and it like, I get it, right? Like I've been on the side where like I've been involved with hiring a video producer and getting to like work with them, even though like I knew them and I knew what was going on. Like it was still kind of exciting, right?
Sure.
And there's like these elements that start coming to life, and like it is exciting. Like be excited. That's not what I'm not saying don't be excited. I'm saying don't let your excitement let you start communicating that, you know, you just have a new idea all the time. And it's like, you shouldn't put too much pressure on yourself. Like while you are creative and you have value in your input, make sure you're not like just trying to have input for input's sake, or a brilliant creative idea for the idea's sake. Like I think sometimes in certain organizations and whatever, you can almost view the video as a reflection of yourself, because you're the one putting the money into it, and you're the one who's leading the charge on your end, and all those different things. And like, and I get it. Like as a video producer, as somebody who's worked in video for a long time, like I get thinking that a video is a reflection of me.
Oh, sure.
Right. But that's not, don't put too much pressure on yourself.
Yeah. It also seems like, I know just from hearing you over the years, like there's, I don't think I would think about this, but there's a process you go through to develop a video.
Right.
And you have to, you're like, it's kind of like building a house. You have to build the foundation first. And so if your foundation, like that's the time, actually it's before then that you come up with the blueprints.
Right.
And like, you're not, you know, really changing the blueprint once everything is drywalled.
Right.
And so realizing that the same thing happens with video. And if you need to change it, like it's better to knock the wall down before everything's finished.
Yeah.
But it's really better if you have the like input at the beginning, and then you know your direction.
Yeah.
So I think maybe just, understanding that even sounds like kind of what you're
That's
talking about.
huge. Yeah. Yeah. And then the kind of the other, almost the other spectrum. So there's almost like this excited pressure that you could potentially put on the video producer. There's this other pressure that I've experienced. You're stressed pressure. So you are stressed because of a deadline, pressures being put on you. And then you go to the video producer and you treat them like dirt with like how just you're feeling the pressure, and so you're almost like venting that pressure on them even though they've not done anything wrong. Like I think just being mindful of like what kind of pressure is being put on you coming into this, and to be honest, let the video producer know. Every time a client has told me the kind of pressure they're up against, every time I've heard, you know, the different people I've worked with, they would all say the same thing. One, the video producer is going to have a lot more empathy for you, but also two, that kind of maybe like can give a little bit of direction with, okay, maybe we need to increase the amount of deliverables. Maybe we need to make sure that you get your check-in email at this time, or whatever their process is. whenever you kind of share that burden with the video producer, it helps a lot. Like the relationship there is going to be so much better.
So you're not saying don't be stressed or don't like come to the producer with your stress.
Don't take your stress out on the video producer.
Because it's not going to help you.
Right. But also let them know what you're under. Like, let them know what's going on. And maybe I've just worked with a lot of like super empathetic people, which I know is probably a little bit more towards that spectrum. But like, man, like they really will care and try to at least be take into consideration the pressure you're under around this video, or because this video is a part of another project or something like that. Just to be mindful of all those little things is going to help the video producer set you up to win. So anyways, so literally all of that was just framing up what do you do in looking for a video producer.
Okay, got it.
So here's some of the qualities. After you have that mindset, here's some of the qualities to look for in a video producer. So somebody who's willing to really collaborate with you. When I say collaborate, like they're going to want to listen, get feedback from you. There is a process, like you were talking about, like there's a clearly defined process. They tell you what they need, when, like at what point, all those different things. And, you know, another one of these as a part of the collaboration is like, they just listen, right? They listen really well. One of the things I've realized is they don't have to be an industry expert. Whatever your industry is, they don't have to be an expert in it to deliver an amazing video. What they need is to be able to ask really good questions and to listen. I just like time and time again, like I remember being on projects where we're like, we have no idea what this even means. Like they're saying all these words that we don't, or acronyms too, that we don't even know what they mean. But we listened, we had them define things, we looked stuff up afterwards, you know, all those different things. And then we ended up delivering a video, and it was primarily explainer videos that like, they're like, we couldn't have said this better. Like, so they don't have to be an industry expert. They just have to be able to listen and ask questions super, super well.
Sure.
The other piece that I feel like is super, there's an art to this, but like to be able to push back on your ideas. So if you get a video client or a video producer, so that if you're wanting somebody to shoot and edit a video, or to literally just do what you are laying out for them, that's one thing. But if you're wanting experts to help you create understanding and provoke action, if you're really wanting somebody to help tell a story, you need to give them the freedom to push back on your ideas. Or like we've done this several times where it's like, it's less about saying that product or that thing isn't a good idea. It's more, I don't understand yet because I'm not the target audience. So I'm going to push on this until I get why somebody would like that thing or be attached to that idea or whatever. I think the other piece that's super important is to make sure that, so there's always three parts to a video. There's the visuals, the script, and then the audio. So whether that's the music, the sound effects, whatever, it's very important that you have somebody that thinks about all three things when making the video, because you don't have to say something if you're showing it. You don't have to, sometimes you can amplify an emotion with the music, or if there's a sound effect that helps to emphasize something, maybe make something a little bit more realistic. So you have somebody writing something and you have that sound effect writing, like.
Is there a way to know that ahead of time? Like that, if someone is good at that?
I'll get to that.
Okay,
That's
sweet.
a very, very good question. And then the last part is just somebody who educates you and brings you along. So, that I think a lot of that is process and helping you understand ahead of time, what's the process going to be like? What kind of feedback are you going to need when? Why does it matter to have it in that order? What things can be changed later? Those kinds of things. Should I care about the music when we're just in this stage? Or should I be thinking about what something's actually going to look like when it's, we're trying to figure out messaging? So just thinking, like having somebody who you kind of, you think will kind of guide you along that process is going to be important. Okay. So let's get to that question though. Yeah. I think so. Some of it is asking people, who have you worked with, and knowing that these are the things you're looking for. Say, how did they do with this? Did they do this? Those kinds of things, and then you'll look really smart to your friends. But then the other piece is like, on any materials you get ahead of time or whatever, before you sign any documents, before you send any money, like what is being communicated to you about specifically the process. I think there are people who, I've worked on projects where we've never done this kind of video before, but a client trusted us because they trusted our messaging work or whatever. And like, it was just, we tried something crazy and it was awesome, but we had never done that before. So I wouldn't necessarily say, have they ever done it before? I would say, what has their track record been like so far? And do they have the kind of process that will allow for that kind of thing? So one of the things I think it's very important, we're talking about process. Every time I've gone outside of this kind of process, it's usually ended poorly. So as long as you have some sort of planning phase where you figure out the core idea and the messaging, what is the video going to actually be about? If you have a phase like that, if you have like a pre-production phase, so this is like we're figuring out the script, we're figuring out, okay, so what is the art style or the background or like, is this going to be a black and white video? Is this going to be in color? All those sorts of things. Will we even have a voiceover? Having a pre-production phase like that is going to be super helpful. That way, when you go into production and post-production, if it's a live action video, then you'll be able to see like literally everything we talked about is just made pretty. So we have storyboards, or we have like, I know exactly how the video is going to flow. I have an idea of what it's going to look like, what it's going to sound like. They just brought it all together. So as long as you have a planning, pre-production, and then like production, post-production phase, you should be good. Anytime we've skipped one of those phases before, it doesn't usually end up going well. It just helps set expectations way better. So sense. Make sure they have some sort of process like that, and just like ask like what their communication is like, and do they do like pre-kickoff call sort of stuff. Having a pre-kickoff call with your video producer, I think, is super helpful, because you're able to kind of do the things we talked about, like okay, are you under some sort of pressure? Like, that's the time to tell them. Is there a specific deadline that, like, heads will roll if this doesn't get done in time? That's super important. You know, being able to, like, communicate all those things ahead of time before you even get started is going to make the process way better for you. So, you know, at our church, we teach, at our church, we teach, like, it's very important to have really good communication with your spouse, with friends, like whoever, and that's what helps good relationships. Well, this arrangement with your video producer is a kind of relationship. So it's very important to have as much proactive communication as possible. All right, so here's a few things I want you to write down right now as you're thinking about what should you be looking for in a video producer. So first thing I want you to write down is, how are you doing? I know it might sound a little wishy-washy, but, like, for real, like, how are you doing? How are you feeling about this project? Why? And like we talked about earlier, what kind of pressure are you under for this video project? So once you have that written down, number 2, what are your goals? So specifically, when it comes to this video, what do you need? What do you need professionally? Thinking about your organization, who you work for, or maybe you're an entrepreneur. Like, what does this video need to accomplish for you? And then 2, personally, like, do you have any specific personal goals for this video? And then number 3, the third thing is going to be super important, and it may sound like a no-brainer, but I think it's important to say because so many people do not have these things nailed down in their head. What is your timeline? So what's the drop dead date? Like, heads will roll if you don't get this video done by this date, and why? Number 2 is, what's your budget? You know, this is an investment. It's not a cost, it's an investment. You are trying to use video to connect with people, and so at some level. And so I think it's very important to figure out, okay, what is this investment worth to me? And having a number in your mind that you are willing to invest in this kind of project. And then last thing is quality expectations, right? What do you expect in terms of the quality of this video? Is there a certain style you're thinking of? Have you seen some other kind of video that I'm like, yeah, that could really work for us? Not just creatively, but like it would actually work for the thing we're trying to accomplish. And you don't have to have a certain idea of what this video needs to look like. Your video producer can help you with that. But it is important, if you do have some sort of expectation when it comes to what does the actual end product look like and feel like, it's important to maybe like have those links ready. Like, find that video that you were thinking of when I said that popped in your head. Find that link, right? Have it saved and send that to your video producer when you're talking to them, so that they have an idea of like, oh, this is the kind of thing that would really resonate with the client. Or maybe they'll be able to say, kind of like that pushback thing that we talked about earlier in the episode. If the video style isn't really going to serve the message, they need to have that freedom to push back. And so maybe they'll say, that makes sense. I understand why you like this piece and this piece. Maybe we can take this aspect and incorporate it, but we really think it's actually going to be better if we go this direction, that kind of a thing. So ultimately, just make sure you have your timeline, your budget, your video quality expectations, have those written down and prepared for whenever you work with a video producer.